Good morning and welcome to another edition of COVID Calls. Today we have again a number of very interesting guests with us. I'll introduce them in a minute, and the subjects that we're going to be talking about are basically about the technology and data side to the fight against this global pandemic. So what are the privacy implications for example, employers who feel the need to tell their staff whether one of their staff was tested positive? We'll also be talking about some of the Apple and Google initiatives to help contact tracing and what are the ethical dimensions around that and the technological implications around that as well. We'll also talk about Zoom and these platforms, these video conferencing platforms that we're all using today. And as we know, there are a lot of privacy and security implications around those as well. So a number of topics. I think it's going to be very interesting. Feel free to leave your questions because we've got a number of experts on the call. In fact, I just want to introduce them one by one. First of all, we have Junior Minister Clayton Bartolo. Clayton is responsible for the digital economy and financial services as well. We also have freshly appointed MP Ivan Bartolo, who is from the Nationalist Party and obviously has a lot of experience in software as well. And we also have Deo Falzon, who is a young technology lawyer who's going to help us understand a lot about the privacy implications as well. In fact, Deo Falzon is representing here MITLA, which is the Malta IT Law Association, that prepared quite an interesting paper on the privacy implications around COVID. So thank you guys for being on the call. I'm just going to start with a few questions to the Minister before we get going with the discussion. Minister, what exactly is the technological assistance, so to speak, that the government is giving to this fight against the global pandemic? So, for example, we've heard that there are a lot of countries using technology, both for enforcement, for contact tracing, also to help in terms of the economy. From your end, what are the key points that you're working on?
Leonid, bonġu Chris, bonġu lilek u anke l-mistiedna li għandna magħna fuq il-programm u anke lil dawk kollha li jkunu qegħdin isegwu. It-teknoloġija qegħdin naraw li nużawha f'diversi aspetti aħna fejn tidħol il-pandemija li għaddejjin minnha. Fosthom pereżempju għandna l-ewwel ħaġa li nnotajna huwa l-ammont ta' nies li iktar qegħdin jaħdmu mid-dar. U allura hemmhekk kellna lil Mita illi għamlet ħafna xogħol biex żiedet l-ammont anke ta' liċenzji illi pereżempju wieħed mill-programmi li qed jintuża ħafna huwa Microsoft Teams, illi dan prattikament għandek ħafna mill-ħaddiema tal-gvern illi llum qegħdin jaħdmu mid-dar, ix-xogħol għadu għaddej xorta waħda u huma qegħdin jużaw l-infrastruttura mid-dar tagħhom grazzi għax-xogħol li tkun għamlet il-Mita. Ġifieri il-Mita tkun preparat dak kollu li jkun hemm bżonn biex ix-xogħol jibqa' għaddej xorta waħda.
Il-kabinet qed jiltaqa' permezz ta' Microsoft Teams?
Le, il-kabinet bħalissa għadna għaddejjin bil-meetings normali, però nosservaw is-social distancing anka fil-kabinet stess. Ġifej qabel kontu taraw ir-ritratti illi kulħadd ikun qiegħed bil-qiegħda wieħed fejn ieħor, issa qegħdin nagħmlu setup pjuttost differenti biex nosservaw il-social distancing even within the same room. Jiġifieri għalkemm inkunu fl-istess kamra, l-ammont ta' nies li attendu naqsu għaliex jekk pereżempju ma jkollokx daqshekk tikkontribwixxi, forsi jkun hemm min qed jagħżel li ma jiġix. Però jew inkella jiġi jitlaq x'intgħaddi l-parti tiegħu.
Imma nafu wkoll li kien hemm persuni li kellhom ikunu fuq kwarantina pereżempju, dawk meta jattendu l-kabinet mid-dar jużaw Microsoft Teams jew Zoom qed tużaw xi teleconferencing. Ħafna
drabi il-Microsoft Teams nużaw għaliex dik hemm agreements illi jkollok l-ammont ta' liċenzji li jkunu qegħdin jingħataw. U anka for security reasons, jiġifieri qegħdin naraw fil-fatt punt tajjeb li semmejt inti illi pereżempju fuq iż-Zoom artiklu li der iktar kmieni din il-ġimgħa kwota Zoom bombs. Jiġifieri dawna fil-li tkun qed għaddej teleconference u stippi xi ħadd li jidħollok fiha.
Li tkun cabinet meeting.
Naqra problema dik, naqra problema.
So given more about the technological, so there's Mita, which was...
There's Mita, Iva, and għanna wkoll l-MDIA illi din diet inizjattiva biex naraw min qed joħroġ BEPS jew inkella teknoloġiji ġodda. Mbagħad minn daħ jkun hemm inizjattiva li jingħata anke award. We are incentivizing innovation at this time. Xi ħaġa li nemmnu ħafna fiha u għaliex nafu li bit-teknoloġija li għandna llum il-ġurnata kapaċi tgħinna fil-ġlieda kontra l-pandemija. U anke fuq livell ekonomiku.
Riċtu grant, ġifieri għal min jiżviluppa xi apps interessanti.
Mela, sa issa nidejna l-inizjattiva, aktar ma jgħaddi żmien l-inizjattiva aktar tkompli tiżviluppa and keep tuned għax ħajkun hemm iżjed żviluppi f'dan ir-rigward. Jiġifieri hemmhekk naħseb li hija tajba.
Palissa ġifieri.
Din ġiet imnedija iktar informazzjoni sa tinstab minn fuq tal-Facebook page u Twitter account tal-MDIA fejn hemm dak kollu li ġie mħabbar fuq din. Apparti minn hekk imbagħad għandek ukoll pereżempju l-applications tal-Malta Enterprise illi dawn saru kollha online. Ġifieri għandek kollox online, inti tdaħħal id-dettalji online, jekk isiru queries once again kollox isir online u mhux b'email normali, imma s-sistema minn nfisha tibda għandha ċertu automations illi tgħinek anke intu timla l-application. Jiġifieri l-applications tant kemm saru sempliċi illi prattikament jistgħu jimtlew minn dak li jkun minn għandu bżonn lajnuna. U din kienet waħda mill-għanijiet sabiex dejjem innaqsu żjed il-burokrazija. Biex aħna naraw illi nużaw it-teknoloġija għax ħafna minn nies illum għandhom let's face it, ċertu peace of mind illi kellna forsi talaq. U allura qed naraw li bit-teknoloġija nerġgħu nġibu lura dan dik il-peace of mind.
Kelkom ukoll l-applikazzjonijiet għal min jibda jagħmel teleworking id-dar u x'hekk. Kemm kelkom pereżempju applikazzjonijiet għal dik l-iskema li naħseb estendejtuha diġà u x'hekk?
Ekku dik fil-fatt ġiet estiża u sa issa kien hemm xejn inqas minn 300 applikazzjoni biex jingħataw lajnuna għal dawk il-kumpaniji illi jażlu jagħmlu investiment fejn jidħol it-teleworking. Jiġifieri daw qegħdin naraw aħna illi kapaċi jinbidel anke il-mod ta' kif isir ix-xogħol wara li tgħaddi l-COVID. Infatti diġà qegħdin nippreparaw biex naħdmu f'ekonomija differenti minn dik illi kellna qabel il-COVID. U rridu naraw anke li bħala pajjiż nieħdu l-vantaġġi kollha li nistgħu minn din il-bidla ta'
U interessanti wkoll li daw l-applikazzjonijiet li qed isiru online u ħafna affarijiet li qed isiru online, ħafna minn daw il-prattiċi misna nżommuhom, le? Fis-sens speċjalment min-naħa ta' ċittadin li jkollu bżonn xi applikazzjoni jew xi ħaġa mill-gvern. Qed tara inti bħala Ministru responsabbli għal dan is-settur, naħseb probabbli kellek pjanijiet in ġenerali biex tagħmlu iktar digital transformation. Imma llum naħseb qed tagħmluha iktar malajr u tistgħu iżommu dan il-momentum, le?
Ekku Chris, fil-fatt wieħed mill-kummenti li kelli anke waqt diskussjonijiet li kellna mal-banek, kellna ħafna diskussjonijiet mal-banek matul dawn l-aħħar jiem. Fej waħda mill-iktar kummenti illi smajt minn għandhom hija illi fil-waqt li qabel kienu qegħdin jaħsbu biex jagħmlu ċerti affarijiet, minħabba l-COVID daw deċiżjonijiet ittieħdu fi żmien relattivament qasir u allura bdew jużaw iktar it-teknoloġija. Ġifieri hemmhekk qed nitkellmu fuq il-banek biss. Meta niġu għas-settur taċ-ċivil, is-settur fejn għandek applications kif qed tajt tajjeb inti, naħseb illi għandu ikun hemm iva nibqgħu għaddejjin anke bir-rollout ta' iżjed online applications imma li jkunu vera online, ġifieri mhux li tipprintja karta tiskenja u tibgħatha b'email, għal dik mhijiex online. L-online tfisser li timla l-application hemmhekk bħalma qed naraw issa biex inti anke xejn jekk ma nieħdu xejn minnha, ejja ngħidu li naqsu l-użu tal-karti. Dak diġà ikun pass tajjeb.
U l-effiċenza u t-traffiku, l-parking u affarijiet.
Kollox xejn.
U semmejt il-banek inti, rrid insaqsik, kontu nedejtu dik l-iskema tal-1.8 billion f'assistenza lil businesses, imma ħafna minn daw kienu bank guarantees li jisom ma smajna xejn dwarhom sissa. Għandek xi żvilupp f'dak ir-rigward?
Ekku, Iva, fil-fatt nista' ngħidlek illi għandna ammont ta' garanziji fejn l-iskema li ħabbarna tal-Malta Development Bank dik illi qiegħda toffri madwar 800 miljun euro f'garanziji. Hemmhekk għandek self jew inkella faċilitajiet illi ħajkunu garantiti sa 90% minnhom. Jiġifieri il-bank hemmhekk qed jingħata l-faċilità illi jagħti il-faċilitajiet li hemm bżonn, issa jekk ikunux overdrafts, jekk ikunux loans, il-klijenti kull m'għandhom jagħmlu għal javviċinaw lill-banek tagħhom, il-banek eżistenti tagħhom biex huma jkunu jistgħu jagħmlu użu minn dawn il-garanziji. Once again, hawnhekk ridna aħna li naqsu l-burokrazija, ridna li nkunu effiċjenti kemm jista' jkun u kien għalhekk illi rajna li l-klijent kull mandu jagħmel huwa li jmur għand il-bank tiegħu eżistenti diġà ma jkollux għalfejn joqgħod imur postijiet oħra. Imbagħad ikun il-bank illi jitkellem mal-Malta Development Bank biex ikun jista' jagħmel użu minn dik il-garanzija. Jiġifieri once again qegħdin naraw kif dawn iż-żminijiet inkunu effiċjenti kemm jista' jkun. Inqisu wkoll l-element ta' social distancing għaliex wieħed jifhem li biex tmur il-bank forsi jkun hemm joqgħod jistenna wara l-queue, forsi jkun hemm min jiddejjaq, allura ridna innaqsu kemm jista' jkun dan l-iskariġġ biex bekk wieħed ikun jista' anke jaċċessa iżjed minn dawn il-fondi li hemm available. Ovvjament il-likwidità hija xi ħaġa importanti ħafna għal businesses. Permezz ta' dawn il-working capital loans qegħdin naraw illi jistgħu jiġu salvagwardjati u mħallsa il-pagi tal-ħaddiema, il-kirjiet tal-postijiet, forsi jkun hemm min xtara stock imma ma jistax ibijaw irrid iħallsu allura jkun jista' jagħmel użu minn dawn il-faċilitajiet. Ġifieri dawn huma kollha affarijiet illi qegħdin jiġu garantiti permezz ta' din il-COVID-19 Guarantee Scheme.
So thank you very much. I want to bring in some of the other guests as well and say hi to our followers. Even we've got a comment from Sweden today, so we're followed around the world as well. Before I bring this question to Ivan and Deo, Clayton, Apple and Google, they're talking about sort of joining forces to help contact tracing. Minnaħa tal-Gvern Malti, qed isir xi ħaġa biex naraw jekk nużawix dit-teknoloġija pereżempju?
Iva, fil-fatt nista' ngħidlek li twaqqaf technical committee bejn is-segretarjat tiegħi u l-entitajiet li jaqgħu taħtna, b'mod speċifiku il-MITA u l-MDIA, u anke min-naħa tal-health u l-public health fejn daw bejniethom qegħdin jaraw it-technical aspects u anke l-vantaġġi illi nistgħu nieħdu minn daw it-tip ta' teknoloġiji. Issa qabel ma nimplementaw xi teknoloġija bħal din iridu nkunu ċerti aħna illi drittijiet tan-nies qegħdin jiġu dejjem salvagwardjati. U hawnhekk qed nitkellem dwar privacy u qed nitkellem anke dwar GDPR illi huma żewġ punti importanti ħafna illi wieħed jissalvagwardjhom. Jiġifieri aħna ma rridux illi akkosta kollox namlu it-tracking tan-nies biex namlu contact tracing, nifhmu l-importanza tiegħu, però fl-istess waqt irridu nissalvagwardjaw lin-nies. U fuq dak li qalu Google u Apple. Fuq dak qalu Google u Apple, iva, importanti li naraw x'qegħdin jgħidu għaliex ovvjament illum ħafna min-nies għandhom l-operating systems ta' daw iż-żewġ softwares. Jiġifieri jekk aħna nkunu kapaċi li nidħlu magħhom ibqa' ċert illi aħna ser nkunu qegħdin nagħmlu dak kollu possibbli u kien għalhekk illi anke qegħdin naħdmu fuq livell Ewropew ukoll. Jiġifieri this is not just something local. Qegħdin naħdmu anke fuq livell Ewropew biex inkunu nistgħu aħna nutilizzaw l-aħjar teknoloġiji li jkollna available fil-waqt illi nissalvagwardjaw id-drittijiet tan-nies.
U kien hemm l-idea wkoll naħseb il-Ministru Christian kien semmiha li jkollna mappa ta' fejn qegħdin daw il-COVID cases u xek. Naħseb hemm implikazzjonijiet interessanti li ħan niddiskutu wkoll ma' Sur Bartolo, Sur Falzon. Ivan Bartolo, I'm going to switch to English as well because of our international viewers. Ivan, you're a freshly elected MP, a bit of a baptism of fire. I think you've been about a month, right, as an MP, and your responsibilities are the digital digital society. How are you coping with COVID? Clayton was talking about the cabinet meetings being done through social distancing and through other methods. What is the Nationalist Party using?
Well, basically, parliamentary groups are using the same platforms, and that's how we do it. In fact, we have a parliamentary group some later on this week. And that's how we do it effectively. We are using these technologies and these platforms. And in reality, when it comes to what Minister Bartolo and myself have to talk about, which is the digital, I'm sure everybody appreciates that in effect, digital nowadays is a horizontal layer. because we are talking about digital in health. There is digital in transport, digital in the economy, digital in planning, digital in energy. So basically, I'm very pleased to be talking and to be shadowing this topic for the very simple reason that there is a lot to do. There is a lot to talk about, and I firmly believe, and there is no doubt that I agree with Minister Bartolo that post-COVID-19, the world is not going to be the same place. And the truth is that we have to, from now, be proactive to see what really digital transformation really means. What does it really mean to have a digital society?
And if we were to just start by talking a bit about the changes that we're experiencing on a daily basis, right? One of the things is remote working, as the Minister mentioned as well. From your perspective, how are you seeing remote working being positive or negative? What kind of challenges are you facing?
First of all, I firmly believe that in life, like everything else, it has, there are two sides to the coin. From one aspect, I'm really enjoying working this way. Because I am no longer troubled with parking. I am no longer troubled with being in traffic. It's amazing how much more I can help at home from a domestic point of view, because in effect I can do some other things in between meetings here at home. So the reality is, yes, I think I'm being far more productive. I think meetings are actually becoming shorter because people are far more focused. And there is more. There are really good ways from the technology aspect how you manage those meetings. And you control them. On the other hand, the flip side of the coin, the truth is I spend my hours, 8 hours in my office at home, staring to the same bloody screen. Yeah. And the reality is that, at the end of the day, we cannot forget that we're human and human beings need to meet people. So again, the way I'm mitigating that at the moment, at least I try to have at least one social or two social calls per day, and meet some friends and I'm calling them, we're having a virtual drink together or a virtual party, For example, on Easter Sunday, we agreed with family members that do not live in the same household. And obviously, because we are sticking to the rules to a T, effectively we had a couple of iPads, linked next to our table. And the truth is, we made sure that we were all eating the same food because we actually got takeaways. We were all eating the same food, so we could talk about the food, how it tastes, blah blah blah, normal conversations. We drank the same wines, but rather than being sitting next to each other, we were actually seeing each other on these iPads or on these tablets, whatever they are,
And hopefully you didn't have any of these bombs we're talking about, right? That's what I mentioned before.
No, to be honest, there is a lot going on about Zoom and all that.
I want to bring on Deo to get his perspective his perspective as well. But from your side of things, I mean, we heard that there are some security problems around Zoom. Are you comfortable using Zoom as a platform? And do you think these problems are being blown out of proportion?
You're asking me, yes?
Yes.
Just to be sure, okay. Because no, the reality, I've been using Zoom and I use GoToMeetings. I use all the platforms to start with, yeah. And if you look at all of them, they all have their own functionality, and there are some pluses and some negatives. The negative that Zoom has been getting in reviews has obviously grown, I believe, by about 500% just since COVID, the pandemic, came to fruition. And they had a problem with, I believe, end-to-end encryption. It was more evident when you were using Microsoft devices, and Windows 10. But again, there are very good regulations. In fact, I have a website in front of me. You have got to make sure that your meetings are very well protected in terms of there is a password. You auto-generate the keys every time to make sure that people don't get used to your key. You make sure that through the settings, when people join the meeting, they're always in the waiting room. You enforce that everybody switches on their camera so you can see faces before you accept people in, because depending on the devices they're joining from, you could simply see, Samsung and the reference number, so you have no way of authenticating person unless you see their face. And most importantly, that the minute everybody's on the meeting, you lock it. So you lock it. So first of all, nobody else can join. And again, now if somebody is going to go through that security level, if they join, they're going to find themselves anyways in the waiting room, and you won't let them in from the waiting room.
Okay, thank you very much. Deo, how are you viewing Zoom and video conferencing, even from a legal perspective, as in are there ramifications that we should be aware of in terms of security and our data?
No, yes, definitely. I mean, Zoom, the main problem with Zoom, as Ivan Bartolo mentioned, it was they experienced a fast growth. So you had an app which was being used by roughly 10 million people. Suddenly, because of this COVID crisis, everyone was looking for alternatives. Some people didn't have, like, for instance, Microsoft Teams. Zoom had a better feature set as well, so that drove a lot of traffic that way. But it suffered some problems. Like, for instance, someone mentioned Zoom bombing. That can be addressed by implementing password, by randomly generating the next meeting ID, etc. The main problems with Zoom, I think, is that they weren't very transparent with how they're dealing with data. They were also doing some false advertising, if I may, because they were saying they had end-to-end encryption. It turned out that they didn't have end-to-end encryption. They didn't even have a transport layer encryption, which is basically just an encryption between the user and the server, let alone end-to-end encryption between all the users. So these kind of false allegations affected their credibility. The other issue was that even there were reports that they analyzed their privacy policy, for instance, and they didn't identify, for instance, that they were sharing their data with third parties, which is something that you need to disclose under the GDPR.
Advertising, presumably.
Advertising, or for whatever reasons, one cannot really predict what they were using them for. Also, they were disclosing certain data. So, for instance, if you have European data subjects need to be made aware if that data is passing through non-EEA member states, and they were using servers in China for people in the EU. So, for instance, that's an added ramification under the GDPR, which wasn't properly disclosed. So all these factors, I think, led that. Now, I'm not saying, if you're meeting friends, you can easily use Zoom. I mean, there are little privacy considerations. But another thing as well was the fact that we saw, like, a number of leaks of passwords and email accounts leaked on the internet, which was derived from Zoom. So definitely that points that they didn't have their house in order to deal with this massive influx of users.
So you're part of the Malta's IT Law Association. And you've prepared a paper, right, about this. You saw that there was a bit of a gap in terms of how COVID-19 is being dealt with from a legal and even ethical sort of standpoint when it comes to data, privacy, etc. If you could just kind of give us one or two.
No, I mean, I'm here to represent MITLA today. So, I practice as a lawyer in the Technology and Media and Telecommunications Department, but I'm here representing MITLA, which is the Maltese IT Law Association. We're very active on this front. We publish papers about cybersecurity. Recently, we commissioned a study, which was, we had the University of Malta participating as well. So we're active on this front. We saw a gap, and we wanted to create some general FAQs for employers who are dealing with health data, who are dealing with more health data. So, as you know, I mean, health data under the GDPR is a specific kind of data. It's called special category data. And it's called special category data because, obviously, due to the sensitivity that health data can incur, you need to protect it even further, and you need to justify its processing under more grounds.
So let's just ground this in a very practical point of view, right? So you're an employer, you have 200 members of staff, and you find out that one of your members of staff tested positive for COVID. Is it your obligation to let all of the staff know that this person tested positive for COVID? Or if you're doing that, are you breaching data protection law? I think that's one basic question, right, that you saw.
Yes. I think an employer has a legal obligation to guarantee the health and safety of his employees at their place of work. So if you interpret that legal obligation as an obligation on the employer to disclose that someone had COVID, then yes, you need to disclose that someone had COVID if the employee was, interacting with all the employees in the firm. But I mean, that's a bit of a wide a wide interpretation, because really and truly, most of the employees would just be interacted with a specific group of other employees. So it doesn't make sense for the employer, for instance, to send a blanket email out and tell everyone, listen, so-and-so got tested positive for COVID. We can definitely instill best practices by saying, listen, even the employer himself does some contact tracing. It's easy to do. I mean, most employers would know who their employee came into contact with, and definitely that's the way to do it, because that would be observing the data minimization obligations under the GDPR.
So one of the obligations of organizations is to minimize the amount of data that they collect and they distribute, right?
Yes.
But so would it be against GDPR rules, or would it be illegal for an employer to do, as you said, send a blanket email, hey guys, this person got COVID, we're managing it, kind of thing?
I think, as I said, would need to analyze that from a case-by-case basis, because if he does a risk assessment and he determines, listen, I can't possibly know who this employee came into contact with, then if that's the case, then yes, by all means, you'd have to disclose it. But if you can realistically do this contact tracing exercises as I'm discussing, then if there's a data minimization exercise that you can use, and that you restrict the number of people who know, then definitely that should be the way forward, and that should open you to less complaints in the future, because as an employee,
less
legal data subject. Yeah, sorry.
Less legal exposure.
Exactly.
Okay. Ivan, maybe I can ask you as well. We spoke briefly about Apple and Google before, but I want to try, you're a technological mind. I want you to try and explain it in simple terms, because I think it sounds much scarier potentially than it is, right? As in, when we're saying our phones will communicate with each other to tell us, whether we've interacted with someone who has COVID or not. It feels like our personal data is being, exposed to some sort of abuse here, right? How exactly have you understood the processes or the proposals of Apple and Google?
In fact, Christian, when they announced it, there is a very important and a very good white paper available on the internet. In fact, anybody can download it and read it. I did. First of all, your phone would not know whether you have COVID-19 or not. It's still a piece of technology and a tool. But on the other hand, what is happening is what they are doing. First of all, they're working together because they want to make sure that between the two operating systems, which is Android and iOS, there will be compatibility.
And this is unprecedented, right, for these two companies?
Yeah, and this is the beauty. On the other again, differi meta wieħed ikun daqsxejn pożittiv li tista' tgħid hawnhekk tara kemm sabiħa li two giants bħal daw żewġ ġiganti, Google and Apple, they came together for a higher and a bigger cause, ġifieri m'hemmx dubju. So what they are actually doing is that they are making sure that the Bluetooth on our phones, when we are with somebody in proximity, for example, of 2 meters, and we've been together or next to each other within that proximity for more than 10 minutes, they actually create in the phone data that this phone number, mhux it-telephone number meta inti tagħtina in-number tat-telephone tiegħi huwa pereżempju 11112222. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the device number. Dak għandhom l-IMEI number, għandhom a specific number.
Like a
Eżatt, u jżomm track dan li jisma' dal-phone fl-aħħar 10 minuti kien viċin ta' dal-phone, ta' dat-telefon. Issa, u da qed jibni d-dejja numri qed jinbnew. Issa ġara jekk jiena mbagħad mort ġifieri qed nagħmel swab test pereżempju mort hawn Pembroke, okay? U l-għada li ċemplu li qalu l-ismi Ivan, you are positive. Okay? Il-verità, at that point in time, jekk ikonna dis-sistema li nista' nagħmel jiena nagħti awtorizzazzjoni sewwa lill-Health Authority biex huma mill-mobile tiegħi isiru jafu li kienu dawk il-mobiles li kont viċin tagħhom over the last 15 days within this proximity. Min dak il-punt il-qudiem huma se jsiru jafu huma xorta jagħmlu dat tip ta' tracing bħalissa. Minflok they are going to be relying only on my memory. They're also going to be relying on the data I have in my phone. Ma jiena minix ħanajdlhom isma' jiena kont ma' Deo Falzon jew ikun ma' Christian Peregin, jiena ngħidlhom isma' daw huma n-numri tat-telefon li kienu ħdejja, huma minn hemmhekk se jsibu l-informazzjoni, they have to do some reverse engineering u jġibu l-informazzjoni u se jikkontattjaw lil dak in-nies jgħidulhom isma' xaħat li intom kontu viċin tiegħu over the last 15 days ġi positively tested, aħjar tiġu hawnhekk biex nagħmlu test lilkom ukoll.
Okay.
Se jsemmu mill-ebda mod.
Deo, what do you make of this, though? As in, it sounds very safe the way Ivan is explaining it, but at the same time, I think one of the fears when it comes to such technologies is that there is some sort of room for abuse, no, or some there's always some sort of loophole, I guess. How do you is this something that can be protected legally?
No, I mean, Christian, definitely, when you automate something, there is room for some abuse. But I think it's to play a bit the devil's advocate, actually, a bit earlier, because we mentioned that it's so great that Apple and Google are collaborating. I agree with that sentiment. Of course, the fact that they jumped on this bandwagon and they said, listen, let's develop this within 2 weeks. It may be that they're seeing something come out of it which is more profitable as well. So let's not just say that they're doing this out of the goodness of their great hearts, because for sure they're foreseeing some other use of this technology. But from an interpretation of the white paper that Apple has made available, and I've seen some other commentators speaking about it, there's a certain beauty to it, because in actual fact, when someone tests positive and goes to the health authorities, because it's interesting, we need to point out that what Apple and Google are collaborating on is not an app, you won't end up with one standardized app. They're working on an API, which simply means that health authorities can then build their own apps on that API. Exactly. But at least you're assured that you're dealing with certain cryptographic security in the same way. And the beauty of it is, if you go to the health authorities, first of all, we need to mention that it's all voluntary. And that's depending on how you see it, it can be either a positive or a negative thing. Definitely, we need to be more transparent of how the technology is going to work, because we need to drive more people to voluntarily install this app when made available, of course. The other thing, and the beauty of it, is when you go to the health authorities, they don't actually get the neither the location nor even the identity of who you were in contact with. The app itself would transmit a push notification and would alert the people who were in your proximity over the numbers of days that the health authorities determined you were symptomatic. And it would tell them, listen, you may have been exposed to the coronavirus, so we suggest that you go and test yourself. Of course, there's a lot of fine-tuning to be done, because, as you know, I mean, there are thousands of Android devices. Apple have a bit of a head start on this, because they know exactly what specific technology and what radios are going in their devices, so they can fine-tune the Bluetooth signals even better. But that's the way forward, I think. And from a privacy perspective, the beauty of it is that it's not sharing any location-specific, at least location data. I'm not saying you can't reverse engineer where someone was if you have the appropriate sniffing tools, etc. But at least it mitigates it.
And that's actually an element of abuse, right? How much like hackers and other people can then sort of use their tools to kind of find information that these tools are not built for.
I mean, they're not. In any case, everyone has TripAdvisor, probably everyone has Google Maps. The fact remains that when you go somewhere that you've been to, for instance, TripAdvisor would alert you. Most people have that turned on without them knowing. So if a hacker were to gain access, I mean, even with Google Timeline, for instance, wherever I went for the past year, if you turn it on, and most people have it turned on. So let's, in this way, it's not location data. It's just something to assist contact tracing.
Ivan, go I wanted to ask you.
Only about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I was reading as well, and you could see it. Google actually giving reports, again, not mentioning people, not mentioning anybody, but they were showing sort of like heat maps. Ubdew juru kif fil-verità kemm qed jobdu n-nies barra minn Malta mħabba il-lockdowns, how people are not going to museums, how people are not going to restaurants, how people are not going Għax ovvjament bil-location mixew l-inti tkun taf jekk għandek mobiles, kemm il-mobile għandek qiegħed ġewwa MIA, pereżempju ġol airport, jekk inti bħalissa ħatara through their data kemm hemm mobiles ġol MIA se ssib probabbilment li m'hemm ħadd bħalissa hemmhekk.
In fact, I wanted to ask you, Ivan, first of all, for your opinion on this this map that the government has spoken about. Is that a map for where the COVID cases are? Is that something you agree with? And also about technology being used to help with enforcement and seeing where people are crowding in public spaces. How are you viewing these things?
There is no doubt that I agree with the heat map if it had to be published, and I agree with it again. We are definitely not going to be talking about who was there and and at what time or all that. But what we're going to be saying is that from the 400 cases we have in Malta, in real terms, how many of them came from one particular location in Malta? So this is what the map is going to saying. Why? So if I'm going to plan with my family to go for a walk, or to go for a jog, or I'm actually going out to do an errand, whatever it is, I actually become a bit even more aware. Where is the concentration in Malta, where the most cases are coming from? And I firmly believe, even the fact that when people are going for their tests, the government, rightfully so, is collecting the ID card number of the individuals. There are so many ways. That means that can be something and it can be achieved very, very easily from a technology point of view. When it comes to technology and enforcement, I will go one step above that first. We are an island, and on a small island like Malta, where everybody knows everybody, enforcement is always a challenge. Because people know people here. The networks are what they are in Malta, and
the policeman will say, "Oh."
So that is one. Then there is the other reality. The police at the moment have so many things to do, and there are and we maybe not have enough police. We don't have enough resources. So in real terms, again, if you wanted to choose and deploy technology to do certain things, today with drones and all of that, we can easily find out all over Malta. And you could easily map it, and you could have actually even a particular drone doing a particular route all the time. For example, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, every half an hour, whatever it is. I'm just giving examples at the minute. Why? To basically create pictures and send feeds into a particular office where you can have 10 people, 15 people, 20 people sitting down in front of monitors and literally, receiving augmented reality. That's what we call it, augmented reality, where they're receiving pictures of what's going on, on the island. U jekk inti qed tara mbagħad li għandek post fejn għandek ħafna nies ikkonċentrati u mbagħad nibgħat il-pulizija jiena nibgħathom hemmhekk. Ir-realtà jien li ngħid ukoll, Christian, that this same way of drones and everything, if you think about our planning in Malta, the way permits are done for development, in those development permits, there are so many conditions, the way the scaffolding has to be, the way the green net has to be, not to disturb people with dust and all. You know what I mean? So the truth is you can actually send a drone and take pictures on a daily basis, and you could see the actual, through the augmented reality, you could see the way the actual development project is changing. So when you apply technology, there is a lot you can do with it.
So obviously, Deo, I mean, if one loves technology and has thought of a lot of different uses, some very interesting uses for drones and things like that. But then again, I mean, and this is one of the, I think, hallmarks of what we're experiencing now. There's going to be a lot of adoption of technological devices and a lot of adoption of certain restrictive laws at the moment. How easy are these laws to sort of roll back, and how much of this technology should we be cautious about integrating into our lives at the moment?
No, definitely in times of crisis, we would see more development in privacy restrictive technologies. And in fact, as the UN Special Rapporteur to Privacy, incidentally, is a Maltese person, commented, we need to be aware, because governments usually suffer from some creep. So if they have implemented something, then further down the line, they would want to use it for something else, etc. And to comment particularly on the drones aspect, these would be really just flying CCTVs. Now, data protection allows CCTVs as long as certain safeguards are maintained. And another thing is, if we're seeing some new ways of processing data, that data processing is being justified on the overarching public interest, to mitigate the pandemic. Once that is over, that specific legal ground will not be available to these people who are processing that data solely to tackle the pandemic, for instance. So definitely they can't keep on doing what they're doing legally, at least. So they would need to justify that. if we're speaking about these drones, for instance, it would definitely help if the data protection laws are not there to stop a particular technology from occurring. They're just there to ensure that the technology which is being proposed happens in a suitable framework. And a suitable framework is one which has the data subject's rights at its core. It doesn't mean that it cannot happen, because as Ivan said, if we're generating a heat map, if we're sending out a drone, okay, the drone may be generating a heat map, but I'm sure that somewhere in the firmware, it would be processing the raw video data. The heat map would be generated at server level further up. So, there's still personal data being processed, and there has to be an impact assessment about that. So that's
sorry, Ivan, just 1 second, because we need to bring this to a close. And one topic that we didn't yet discuss, but I'd like to get your observations, Ivan, is e-commerce. We've got at the moment, I think, every single restaurant in Malta seems to be developing an online delivery system. A lot of shops are starting to come up with their e-shops, and there's been a very fast adoption of this kind of technology as well, which is great, because it adds to our efficiency, it adds to our convenience, and it helps us reduce things like traffic, parking, pollution, etc. How are you viewing this transition? And do you think that government or private enterprise, should there be some extra initiatives to boost this? And then we'll conclude with Deo's perspective of this same subject. Like what should these businesses be looking at when they set up quite rapidly these sort of shops? I mean, surely there are a lot of people who are probably collecting a lot of data, both without even realizing it and without realizing their GDPR implications, right? But we'll start with you, Ivan. What do you think can be done to help this process of digital transformation?
First of all, the truth is, you said I love technology, and the reality is I do love technology, but I love technology in the sense I am not what do you call it, a freak or a geek or technology geek. I love technology because technology has shown me, especially with my 20 years experience working with technology in health, how you can improve people's lives, how you can create efficiencies, how you can reduce costs for people. So actually, it's all about people at the end of the day. Technology is there, to be leveraged to improve people's quality of life and provide peace of mind. So even the law aspect is very important, and people like Deo and I respect a lot what they do and how they do it. Why? Because at the end of the day, that peace of mind needs to come from there as well. That my data is not being abused. But on the other hand, in reality, although this may sound a bit nasty, but again, what COVID-19 has done, it has enforced people to really get out of their comfort zone. Because a lot of people had to get out of their comfort zone. I think there have been a lot of business people, small retail outlets in Malta, where they've taken the digital transformation, the digital age, a bit too much for granted. In a sense, it's like almost in denial. It's not going to happen. Now, this thing, they will find out that effectively those people who are going to keep on going forward and do this digital transformation, and digital transformation is not just about having e-commerce, and having the ability to have people to buy online. Digital transformation is, the best way one would explain it is, in the late 80s, when the PC came to our desk in our office and it came to our homes, what we actually did there is we actually got an analog process and we've placed it on a digital platform. That's what we did back in the 80s. Ġifieri minflok bdejna nagħmlu l-accounts fuq il-ledgers. Bdejna nagħmlu l-accounts, bdejna nagħmlu data entry through a keyboard. The process remained analog, but the actual platform became digital. Today's opportunity is all about, in effect, taking the process also to a digital level. And when you take it to a digital level, that means you have immediate access to information, immediate access to real-time stuff, what is going on. And the reality, these people would understand that from their businesses, they could also start understanding, how their product behavior is, what is the customer touch points, the life cycle, how are people actually going down through the sales funnel from literally reaching out to the well, that you are here to sell something. And the reality, the other big thing is, if there are people in Malta with the great crafts we have, with so many talents that we have on this island, they need to understand that if they go online, suddenly they can be selling a product which is only sold in Malta because it's sold through a shop here physically. Suddenly they can actually, start selling it overseas. I bring just one last example before I go quiet. I have a very, very dear friend of mine who's a goldsmith, and one day I said to him, listen, why don't you start offering, bespoke, min flok toqgħod tagħmel ħafna ċriki, more of the same, and all this. Why don't you become a bespoke goldsmith? And we promoted his thing in London, that this is a goldsmith, a goldsmith, that a person who can do anything you want for you, in gold. Believe it or not, and I really mean this, his first customer in Malta was actually Elton John. Not Elton John came to Malta, but one of his team members. And what they did for Elton John was actually they produced a guitar, a very small guitar in gold, which was a replica. Now, would he ever got that order from the UK if he wasn't online, if he wasn't actually innovative and thinking outside the box? That's what digital is all about, pushing the boundaries and getting that out of our comfort zones.
Thanks for that. I hope you didn't breach any privacy by saying that. And before I get to there, we have an interesting question. Ivan, maybe it's more of a suggestion. Unfortunately, I can't put it to the minister because the minister had to leave early for another meeting. But one of our followers, Ian, over here is suggesting that the government uses RFID bracelets to be able to kind of know in real time the sort of health realities of people, so that we can protect the more vulnerable, but sort of restart the economy. I just wanted to put that to you, Ivan, in case maybe it's something that you've discussed or proposed internally, and maybe it should be something that you propose and discuss internally. But Deo, moving on to you. What's your advice, very quickly, because we need to close? What's your advice to businesses who are transitioning online in a very rapid way right now and might not be fully cognizant of their data responsibilities?
Christian, not just e-commerce websites. I think all kinds of businesses, even the services industry, all of a sudden they had to move to remote working. So definitely this is an eye-opener and a game changer, because if you had an entity which didn't embrace remote working, which didn't embrace the cloud, no VPN connections, etc., now they're all running off, if they didn't even have laptops, so we saw a shortage of laptops, which obviously led us to believe that they were working on fixed towers, for instance, for security reasons perhaps. But definitely this will push those businesses, because further down the line, we're not assured that something similar won't come again, and we definitely have to be better prepared, because the risk is when you implement these measures like Zoom did, when you experience this fast change, you won't be able to implement good secure measures. So definitely you will suffer, and if we don't see breaches now, we'll see them further down the line. And if I may, Christian, because I'm seeing this RFID, this will be interesting as well from a privacy perspective, because if you have a constant tracking device, that is something which has to be dealt with separately. So it's not just sorry, Ivan, you were going to say something.
To be honest, with the RFID thing, again, from my IT days when I was running 6 PM, one of our key products was, in effect, RFID tagging, and we tracked medical records in hospitals. We tracked vulnerable patients like babies or people with dementia. So the truth is, RFID has an enormous amount of potential. So there is a lot one can do with RFID tagging, and again, we could be talking about people coming out of prison. If you need to bring people out of prison because of the pandemic, how are you going to track? There is a lot you can do with technology, and I think what I would always say is we definitely need to work hand in hand with then the legal specialists like Deo, because the truth is, under no circumstances should anybody be thinking to develop any solution which does not abide with the rules and with the law. On the other hand, the law if there are changes that can happen in the law which are going to improve our standard of living, our peace of mind, our ability to be more agile in the way we actually track something like this pandemic, then, you know, the truth is we need to get around the table or on Zoom or on any GoToMeeting platform and maybe actually discuss the law and see what can we change to become far more agile. This is about agility. This is a race. There is no doubt. You know, the low-hanging fruit at the moment, again, which we did not mention on today, and but I understand there is no time. There is no doubt, you know, we did not in any way or form speak about the potential of proper e-learning platforms in schools. Why are schools shut today? You know, why are they closed? Why cannot people, our students today, could still be going into a virtual classroom if need be because of discipline? Still, they are wearing their uniform, you know, and we can be doing exams online. We know the truth is, we were caught. Let me say, you know, exactly, you know.
Fair enough. Thank you very, very much, guys. This was a really interesting conversation. Glad to have you both on it. I'll just do a bit of a conclusion, but thank you very much for being here, Ivan Bartolo and Deo Falzon. So thanks for watching. That was another edition of COVID Calls, discussing privacy and data. We had a lot of interesting points about how technology can be used. You know, in the end, we spoke about for education and other aspects and health monitoring, but also for enforcement in terms of planning. You know, a lot of interesting ideas over there, but always within the framework of what is legal, what is ethical, and how can we create things for the future and build on this momentum that has been created in terms of COVID-19, but not go too far where we find ourselves in a position where we cannot roll certain things back and we end up you know, with more privacy concerns and room for abuse. So thanks again for watching, and we'll be with you again tomorrow.